Hello and welcome to this opening episode of the UFOcast Does Captain Scarlet, and I am Luke. And it's just me for this one, going back to my roots as a podcaster, solo podcasting in short bursts. This is a solo project that I've come up with largely as a result of getting the Blu-ray set, just the vanilla 4-disc set with the episodes, because, well, I mean, who doesn't want to see them in HD? Really, obviously, we talked about on the UFOcast how brilliant the UFO looks in HD. And I'd seen the Mistrons on the Filmed in Super Mario Nation disc, so decided to go in for getting Captain Scarlet on Blu-ray. And I thought, why not do a podcast series on my own, so it's easier to find the time to do that. There's no scheduling with me and Michael, and just a nice short little thing that I can sort of knock something together after I've seen every episode. Thus far I have watched the first 2 episodes again, so I will be going from memories of a few days or weeks ago for those, but with the subsequent episodes I will try and record as I watch, so that my thoughts are fresh. This is not supposed to be any kind of comprehensive deep dive an analysis in the way that UFOcast was a bit more. This isn't this long conversation between me and Michael about the things that we've seen. I'm not going to go into a huge amount of detail. There are a few things that I want to look out for in each episode. I'm going to talk about that in a minute, but before I go in for that, I thought I'd just give you my history with Captain Scarlet. As with all the Jerry Anderson puppet series from Stingray through to Joe 90, I caught those when they were repeated in the early 90s on BBC 2, I think it was, wasn't it? First with Thunderbirds, then obviously they went back to Stingray, and then they did Captain Scarlet and Joe 90. We watched them when we could, which was most weeks, and my brother had a tape, I think it was a 4-hour tape, which he recorded 10 episodes on over the course of that series. I can't remember what 10 episodes those were. Obviously we would have rewatched those, and I did buy a tape, an official tape, volume 5 of the order that was out at that point. So that tape had on it Avalanche, The Trap, Special Assignment, and The Heart of New York. So those are 4 episodes that I'm particularly familiar with, because that was the one tape that I had that I watched over and over again. I would say that I'm reasonably familiar with the opening few episodes. And when I say the opening few episodes, in pretty much any order that you look at, the series starts with the Mistrons, Winged Assassin, Big Ben Strikes Again. And at that point, the order changes depending on whose order you're following. So just a quick word about the order that we're going in. I'm going with the Blu-ray order, which for the most part follows production order, apart from where there are obvious continuity aspects that have to be maintained. So, for example, the whole Moon series has to happen in a certain order, and those weren't necessarily produced in the right order, but largely the Blu-ray follows the order that things were produced in, which is different from the ITC recommended order. It's very different from the DVD order, the DVDs that were released sort of 10 years ago or so, maybe a bit longer actually. I think I got them about 10 years ago. So there's certain episodes that I'm more familiar with than others. I can remember exactly when I rewatched this all on DVD, because I ripped the DVDs to my iPod. This is how far back we're going. One of the original-ish iPods. And I watched a lot of them on a trip to Israel in 2009. And that's the last time that I rewatched the whole series. And in fact, as I say, I can't be sure that I saw every single episode on the first broadcast back in the early 90s. So some of the episodes I'm pretty certain that I will have watched for the first time back in 2009. And then I haven't really revisited the series since then. So with the exception of watching the Mistrons on Blu-ray when that came out on, as I said, the Filmed in Super Mario Nation discs. Some episodes I am more familiar with than others. Some I have a feeling for whether I really like them, whether I dislike them. I particularly remember that Renegade Rocket was broadcast on my birthday in, would have been 92, 93, so I would have been 8 or 9. And as a family, we agreed it was a bit of a clunker. So interested to, and I seem to recall rewatching it on DVD, I came to the same opinion. But it'll be interesting to see what I make of it this time. let's get into what we're going to be looking out for in each episode. So, as I've already alluded to, we're going to be looking out for continuity. As you probably know, Captain Scarlet wasn't necessarily, and all of the Jerry Anderson series, they're pretty loose on continuity, such that once you've shown everybody the first episode, you can largely show them in any order, with some caveats. We'll remember from the UFOcast we talked a bit about that. And so I'm just going to throw in there are 5 pieces of continuity that I am aware of at this point. So I'm going to quickly fill you in on those. If there's anything else that you're aware of that definitely means that one story comes before or after another, do let me know in the comments for this episode. Go to ufocast.co.uk and make a comment on the post. So the definite continuity bits that I know are that Winged Assassin follows immediately from the Mysterons, because it's explicitly like Captain Scarlet's first mission after he's recovered from falling off Carview. So those two... and the Mysterons obviously has to start the series, because that's what kicks off everything off. So those two have to be the first 2 episodes. And then there's a series of 3 where Operation Time has to come before Spectrum strikes back, because the events of Operation Time give the clue about electrocuting Mysterons that help build the Mysteron gun and the whole X-ray thing with the Mysteron detector. And then I definitely know for a fact that Heart of New York features the Mysteron detector, so that has to come after Spectrum Strikes Back. If you know of any other, I can't remember any other uses of the Mysteron detector. If there are any, do let me know, because those also obviously have to come after Spectrum Strikes Back. Then you have the sort of Lunar trilogy with Lunarville 7, Crater 101, and then Back on Earth, Dangerous Rendezvous. Those have to happen in that order. And in fact, all these continuity things do work if you follow, all the ones that I'm highlighting now do work if you follow the Blu-ray order. Other orders screw with this continuity, and so I think this is one of the reasons following in Blu-ray order works quite well. Heart of New York is the first time that we see the Mysteron power where Captain Black drives around a corner and his car vanishes. I'm pretty sure that has to be the first time that happens, because it's commented on. Might be wrong. Do let me know if I'm wrong about that. And then that happens in 3 other episodes, in Model Spy, Expo 2068, and Inferno. So all those, as far as I'm concerned, have to happen after that. And then one that I wasn't aware of, but I read this when I was starting some research for this podcast, is that Noose of Ice follows on directly from Flight 104, where they're talking about returning to Mars, and Noose of Ice has the whole kind of, we're producing the fuel for that. So it makes sense that Flight 104 comes before Noose of Ice. So all of those continuity things are preserved if you watch in the Blu-ray order. I'm going to be watching out for anything else that I can spot which might suggest that one episode has to come after another in terms of like things that are referenced. Obviously, The Inquisition has to be the final episode because it's a bit of a clip show. It's not a great ending for the series, but that has to come after the 4 or 5 episodes that it references. And I think pretty much every order that there is out there puts it last, so that makes sense. So again, we'll be looking out for continuity. If you know of any other continuity bits that I haven't just mentioned, then do please email the show, ufocast@yahoo.com. So what else are we going to be looking out for? Well, so we're going to be looking out for any new Mysteron powers that are introduced in an episode, something that we see that they haven't done before. We're going to be looking at Mysterons still at large, so episodes in which a Mysteron agent survives. Obviously, that's largely going to be Captain Black, but in some cases I think there are others that survive. Is it a win or a loss, or a draw, in terms of the Mysterons versus Spectrum? We'll be keeping a tally of that. And then, and this is more of a thing to look out for on the blog post for each episode, I want to look at the puppets that play Mysteron agents. I'm not looking to do a kind of comprehensive catalogue of all the puppets that appear in the show and the episodes that they all appear in. I just want to specifically go in, who is the Mysteron puppet this week, and how many times each puppet gets to play a Mysteron and the voices and all that kind of stuff. I just think that's a little bit of fun, without trying to be massively comprehensive about all the puppets that have appeared in the show. And if you are aware of a resource out there which already does that, that would help me out. Do let me know. I might be adding in other things as we go, but those are the ones that I've kind of focused on for the beginning of this series. The episodes will be going out weekly, so you might be hearing this, watching this on, well, I say watching, hearing this on YouTube. You might be hearing this as a podcast that you've downloaded from wherever you get your podcasts. Either way, these will be coming weekly, So look forward to 32 more weeks. And I'm going to be recording a whole backlog of these before I start releasing them. So don't worry about, as we had the problem with the UFOcast where we had to stop for a while, I'm going to be making sure that these come out weekly. You will have, including this episode, 33 episodes by the end of this. And I hope you will join me in my trip through Captain Scarlet. The majority of this episode was recorded on the 29th of February 2020. I'm recording this addendum to the introduction on the 29th of July 2022, shortly before starting to release this podcast finally into the world. And I have in fact rewatched the whole of Captain Scarlet in that time. It's taken well over 2 years. I have even started to record my thoughts on Joe 90 as well. That will obviously come some distance into the future. The reason I'm adding on a little thing here is that since conceiving this podcast, I have also added in a weekly Spectrum agent. Next week, that is my brother giving his thoughts on the Mistrons alongside me. If you would like to record 2 minutes talking about any episode of Captain Scarlet that's available, please visit ufocast.co.uk/captain and send me your preferences. There are still plenty of episodes in the series left as I record this, and I would love to add in your thoughts into the episodes as we go. My thoughts are already recorded over the course of the past 2 years. So, that said, I hope you enjoy the next 32 weeks of looking back at Captain Scarlet.